The Officer Candidate School hosted the 2016 Patterson Awards in a ceremony at the National Infantry Museum. This year's recipient is Second Lieutenant Charleston H. Faglie. A member of the 75th Ranger Regiment and Airborne School graduate, Second Lieutenant Faglie adds the honor to his list of accomplishments, which include the Combat Infantryman's Badge and the Expert Infantryman's Badge. He looks to continue serving proudly in his career, staying consistent with the same leadership style that placed him in the company of the ward's namesake.
My military achievements kind of go pale in comparison to some of the achievements of the company here tonight and those who have come before me. I'm really just very grateful to receive an award which bears the name of a great American.
Each year, the Patterson Award is given to the Infantry Officer Candidate that has displayed leadership throughout enlisted service, OCS, and Infantry Basic Officer Leadership course. Courtney Woody, Fort Benning, Georgia.
Okay, so now I'm honored to introduce our guest speaker, Lieutenant General Retired John M. Brown III. Lieutenant General Brown enlisted as an infantryman in 1969 and became a second lieutenant upon his completion of Infantry Officer Candidate School in 1971. His command experience includes company commander of Combat Support Company in 126 Infantry, 1st Infantry Division, commander of Headquarters and Special Troops Battalion of 18th Airborne Corps, Fort Bragg, and during Operation Golden Pheasant in Honduras, commander of the 3rd Battalion, 5th Cavalry, and 3rd Armored Division, both in Germany and in support of Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm, commander of 1st Brigade, 24th Infantry Division at Fort Stewart, Georgia, and during Operation Vigilant Warrior in Kuwait, Commanding General of United States Army Alaska, and finally Commander of the United States Army Pacific, headquarters at Fort Shafter in Hawaii, where he retired on 1 February 2008. General Brown has got numerous other assignments that have taken him all the way from the battalion level to headquarters DA, where we work not only with soldiers, but shaping the Army enterprise. And as we discussed earlier today, some of his work has gone into the way that our lieutenants are trained nowadays, as well as being part of the Army Transformation Task Force. General Brown holds a bachelor's degree in biology from West Georgia College and a master's in industrial management from the Georgia Institute of Technology. And his military education includes the Infantry Officers Advanced Course, Army Command and General Staff College, and the National War College. His awards and decorations include the Distinguished Service Medal, Silver Star, Defense Superior Service Medal, Legion of Merit, Bronze Star Medal, Combat and Expert Infantryman's Badges, Master Parachutist Badge, and the Ranger Tab. And I think we can all agree that it's fitting that such a distinguished OCS alumni and infantryman is here tonight, especially as we heard about the history of the Patterson Award that recognizes our top lieutenant each year. It's very fitting that we have such a distinguished infantry leader who is here not only to follow on with this great award, but offer his thoughts on leadership as we move into the next generation. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Lieutenant General Retired John M. Brown, our guest speaker.
Well, it seems like I go through my life following great speakers like Mark and Charleston. So I could probably wrap this up by saying, take everything Charleston said, everything Mark said, except my bio, ditto, and have a great evening. But I guess I ought to sing a little bit for my supper, and I'll try to do that. Oh, it's so good. It is special to come home to Fort Benning. I guess for me, it was far across the Chattahoochee, and try not to get lost on the land nav course and fall into Eupatoya. But this is a marvelous, marvelous place. It feels like home. It feels like home to all infantrymen. And now it is home to the maneuver portion of the United States Army. What a great hallmark to this wonderful place, and what a dynamic future Benning has, and the maneuver elements of the United States Army, because we've co-located infantry armor right here together. I graduated from Infantry Officer Candidate School in 1971, but I felt like a brother to every OCS graduate that I've ever met. There are numerous distinguished individuals and groups here tonight. I've got to mention the leadership, the dynamic leadership of the Maneuver Center of Excellence, the infantry school itself, the great units that are stationed here at Fort Benning and that do the work of the infantry and the Maneuver Center and do it so very, very well. I could never not mention my fellow OCS alumni and graduates. Very special tonight that we have the reunion of a class of 66. Well done, folks, and we're so proud you're here tonight. The inductees in the OCS Hall of Fame that took place yesterday, and I know many had to get back to things at home, but for all of you that are here, God bless you and congratulations for that great honor that you so richly deserve. The beautiful and lovely ladies that are here tonight who always make us look so much better than we should. And of course, our inductee to the Patterson Award. I gotta tell you, Charleston, if you keep giving remarks like that, short and so dynamic, this may get to be an annual thing. Many may have to host it more than this, but great remarks. This beautiful museum complex and all the plans that are taking place for the Armor community as it moves in here. Great sense of pride, solid foundation for the future. Now, there are some memories of Fort Benning and OCS that I got to tell you, they get better and funnier as time goes by. I remember specifically those dark 30 runs where the tax would roust us out at some ungodly hour and we'd take off and just keep running. And it seemed like for our class, we always wound up circling Stuart Watson Field about 3 times at the end and then low crawling into the creek along Stuart Watson Field. And we always timed it where it was just about sunrise, and as we were low crawling in that creek, going upstream, up on the bridge up in front of us, there were the TAC officers. And they were doing something into the water. I won't say what I thought it was. But they were there encouraging us to crawl faster upstream. I guess there are some traditions that maybe need to die, and that's probably one of them. But it's all part of the process. 75 years of service of Officer Candidate School to our nation and our Army. A legion of leadership. Battle-tested, responsive to national priorities, the versatility and flexibility to expand and contract as our nation and our Army need leaders, especially soldier-focused leadership. Relevant, absolutely relevant at the tactical, the operational, and the strategic level of national defense. Always has been and always will be. OCS is worthy of recognition and celebration, and I'm so glad to be here with you tonight to do that. Great remarks about Robert P. Patterson. And Charleston and Judge Patterson are a hallmark and a memorial to what military leadership and national leadership are about. As was mentioned, this all began in 1952. And the name that's on this award and the man that it was founded in honor of sets a tremendous standard and example for all of us. A distinguished soldier, a combat veteran in 2 wars, an accomplished, highly accomplished jurist, a presidential cabinet secretary, an officer commissioned from within the ranks of soldiers, as so many of us here share with him. So Charleston, congratulations. To win an award with that man's name on it is really special. We're proud of you, we're proud of your leadership. And every graduate in this room and every graduate around the world of Officer Candidate School belong to the heritage and the traditions of Officer Candidate School. Now, this might be called the time for an editorial comment, but don't you wish we had more leaders like Judge Robert Patterson today? The more I've heard and read about him, a soldier citizen, a man who thought more about we and us and much less about me and I. We need leaders who understand as much about missions and service as they do about deals and polls. Veterans recognized for courage and gallantry, not for Twitter numbers. So, if I were going to give an encouragement to those in this room tonight, regardless of where you are in your careers and where you are on the age scale, never give up considering leadership positions, whether in or out of uniform. We need more veterans in city, county, state, and national leadership positions. I recently had the privilege of voting in a North Carolina state primary. And out of the 9 individual positions that I got to vote on, 6 of the resumes included service in the Armed Forces of the United States. Well, you know where 6 of my votes went. And I'm very proud to say that 5 of the 6 got elected in the primary. So if we win, we all win every time a veteran is elected to a public office. Now, at this banquet, I am just thrilled to get to see senior candidates seated amongst all of you great OCS veterans. And a banquet that celebrates leadership, I can't think of a better place to have those senior officer candidates right here with us in attendance. We all know that the nation must have a strong Army. They're the next cohort of our Legion of Leadership, and we're proud to have all of you here with us tonight. Now, we expect big things from you, and the Army will entrust you with its most precious resource, its soldiers. I'll wrap up tonight with a few thoughts from leaders that I served and leaders who taught me and mentored me. Now, my first bit of advice is beware of old generals giving advice. And the reason I say that, it's not because I don't believe in these points that were passed on to me, because I live in many of them. I say that because you are in one of the fastest transforming and changing organizations in the entire world. The Army is constantly changing and reinventing itself, and you're going to see it over and over again. So take these thoughts that I may pass on to you. They were given to me by great, great leaders. But if they don't fit the Army you're serving in, forget about it. Some of these have been around for over a century. A few of them are fairly new. But let me roll through a few of these. Now, everybody in this room is going to continue to be very proud of you if you're the fastest runner on the PT test, the best marksman, the most digitally capable officer in your command. That's all good stuff. Keep it up. But your reputation will be made by the accomplishments of your platoon, your detachment, your team, and later by your company and your battalion. If your soldiers in your unit excel, you excel. That should be your primary focus for the future. Next, the non-commissioned officer corps is the secret weapon of the United States Army. I heard it even as I was coming through OCS, but I have seen it in armies and nations all over this planet. Big armies like the People's Republic of China, the Republic of China armies, the Japanese army, and small armies in Nepal and in much smaller countries around the world. They all wish they had non-commissioned officers like you are going to serve with in the United States Army. In 2006, 2007, I was in the Pacific, and we had a special honor to host a People's Republic of China general named Go. He was the equivalent of the United States Army Chief of Staff, most senior maneuver officer in the Red Army. He came in with a group of 21 senior officers and advisors and a bunch of translators, and he went on aircraft carriers, he flew an Air Force aircraft, he saw Marines do amphibious landings, and he wrapped up coming to visit a squad, a rifle squad, from the 25th Infantry Regiment. General Go dispatched his other leaders to go look at their laser rangefinders, their high-tech GPS-based navigation equipment, and he and one translator went over and he got right face-to-face with those soldiers. And first of all, I'll tell you, not a man in that squad was back down because they were talking to a four-star Chinese general. They answered straightforward, very well. The first question he asked was to a corporal. He asked that corporal, how much money do you make every month? The corporal told him. The general had the translator ask the question 2 more times. He couldn't believe that a corporal in the United States Army made what the corporal told him he did. The next question he asked is he went to the squad leader, staff sergeant, and he said, how many times during the year do you get to see your family? And the staff sergeant said, well, sir, my family lives here with me at Schofield Barracks. And he said, well, how can you afford to have your family? He said, the staff sergeant told him, I have a wife and I have 2 children. How can you afford to have your family? Where do you find a place for them to live? And the staff sergeant says, well, the Army provides me housing, and in fact, we just moved into a brand new set of quarters at Schofield Barracks. The general was floored. He was absolutely floored. Not because of opulence. He knows what the budget of the United States Army is and what we do, but because that sergeant and that corporal were able to stand right in front of him and answer those questions and do it without ever blinking. Our non-commissioned officers are an absolute treasure. Now, to all of you senior candidates, the sooner you get comfortable with and decide and figure out how you can team with your NCOs, the faster you'll move your unit from average to excellent. You can never pass your responsibility. It's been drummed into you in OCS. It was drummed into me in 1971. But you can give authority to your non-commissioned officers. And if you do, they'll exceed your wildest goals in accomplishing things more efficiently and more effectively. When you find a strong mission-ready unit, you find a strong officer, non-commissioned officer team. And I'll be honest with you, when I left Infantry OCS, I wasn't sure how I was going to deal with my first platoon sergeant. But a couple of first sergeants and a great command sergeant major taught me, and if you need to ask a question, go to one of those folks and they'll teach you. It'll make you a much better leader. Now, your personal competence will always be required. To lead soldiers, you've got to master the tasks that they are required to perform. Now, they won't expect you to be the best at every task, but they will expect you to get your hands dirty, and they'll be expecting you to be able to help them become better themselves so they can fulfill their dreams and their goals. If Sergeant Tom Haney hadn't stuck with me and taught me how to be a gunner with a 25mm Bushmaster, we never would have qualified on Table 8 as a crew on my Bradley, and probably would have had a much tougher time when we got into sticky situations. So I'll forever be beholden to Sergeant Tom Haney for making me at least a good average Bradley gunner, because he was the best I ever saw. Now, you got to be versatile. The Army's got a lot of jobs. You may not always get your first pick of assignment. But there are important missions out there that have to be fulfilled, and the Army will expect you to do it with energy and with competence and with excellence. Be known as a versatile officer. You can get any task done, whether it's right in your branch wheelhouse or the unit wheelhouse you're assigned to, and you'll be recognized as a good leader. Now, you've heard and you will train to fight. But I'll tell you, one of your biggest battles is going to be fighting to train. In a shrinking Army with reduced budgets, there will be diversions and calls upon your soldiers and upon you and your time. You've got to fight to train. You have, no matter how high-tech, no matter how new the equipment you're given, if you don't have good training, you'll lose. If you win, you'll win with training. Weapons and marksmanship training are critical for every soldier in the United States Army. It doesn't matter what their military occupation specialty is. It doesn't matter what their job is in the unit. They got to be able to use their weapons, and they got to be able to hit the target when they fire at it. In our business, there may come a time, and we've seen too many examples of this, there may come a time where your only good option is to shoot your way out of a bad fix. Make certain that your soldiers are ready if you have to do that. Focus on marksmanship and weapons training, and it'll be a great boon to your soldiers. Now, here's one, if I was going to stomp my foot on any of these, here's one I'd stomp my foot on about 4 times. Always understand your commander's intent. We now formalize intent in our operations orders and plans, but make sure you don't just read it, make sure you understand it. Every plan I ever had to execute, every op order I ever had to execute, changed somewhere right after the line of departure. Sometimes changed several times. But if you understand your commander's intent, when the plan changes and when communications are not good, you'll be able to continue on to accomplish what that commander was trying to get done. It may well mean the difference between victory and defeat. Never hesitate to ask. If you don't understand the boss's intent, ask him. And I promise you, he will appreciate that you did. Now, I've always thought that an officer must be well-read. Some of the finest officers I ever served with, I thought, and I tried to emulate them because they were well-read. You'll have reading lists from just about every command that you join. And you'll, just like I did, when you came out of OCS, or you came out of the advanced course, or you came out of the War College, you were a little tired of reading. But I gotta tell you, keep reading. If you haven't read it yet, before you complete your first year of service as a commissioned officer, go find Anton Meyer's Once an Eagle. You're gonna meet Sam Damon, and you're gonna meet Courtney Massingale several times while you serve in the United States Army. That book will help you understand what their traits meant to their character and how they led in the positions they were put in. It's a great book. It's a good read. You'll enjoy just reading it. But you're going to meet Sam Damon and Courtney Massingale. I've given away 4 copies of that book that I can remember. Every time I find one somewhere, I buy it and hang on to it. I just loaned out my last copy a couple of months ago to a bank president in North Carolina. She read it. No military background, no military service. She read it, returned it to me, came back to me in 3 weeks and said, "Can I borrow that book again?" She said, "Now that I've read it, I just realized we have Sam Damons and Courtney Massingales in the banking industry." Now, you won't understand that if you haven't read the book, but find that book and read it. It's a good read, and it will be a game changer. In an army that has to make sure we're ready to fight when we take our soldiers into combat, I recommend you read a book called This Kind of War, written by a man named T.J. Fehrenbach. It's about the United States Army marching into Korea at the very beginning of the Korean conflict. The United States Army wasn't ready. We sent soldiers in and they got butchered. That book, though it was written about Korea and it's written about that peninsula, has a lot of meaning today when we're shrinking budgets, bringing down people numbers, trying to decide how many maneuver units. This kind of war would be a good read. If you want to know about the importance and how you might think about putting teams of leaders together to accomplish big tasks, I recommend Joyce Kern's Goodwin's Team of Rivals. Now, a lot of people say, well, gosh, that's at the presidential level, but it's a really good read on Abraham Lincoln's thoughts about how does he put a team together in the midst of a terrible, terrible war in order to get things done to accomplish what the nation needed. In fact, I'd recommend any book you find on Abraham Lincoln's leadership strategies and leadership techniques would be well worth the read. But Goodwin's Team of Rivals is a good one. Now, don't just read Army stuff. We, because of the way we're organized and how we go through our careers, we're too isolated in many cases from our fellow citizens across this country. Read what they think about where our nation's headed. Read about their concepts of democracy and their concepts of leadership and how they think about us. Read for pleasure, but read. A well-read officer stands out and will be recognized by his peers. Now, this is one that nobody mentioned when I was coming out of OCS, but boy, I wish they had. Our Army's made tremendous strides in recognizing and supporting Army families. We should have done it much sooner, and we should do it better today than we do. But it's important. There's no doubt about it. Army families are part of Army readiness. And anybody that doesn't think that needs to relook their position. Do all you can to help our civilian leadership understand how important Army families are to the readiness of our Army. With a deployment-busy Army and with other tasks pulling people away for other things to be accomplished, you'll face some tough decisions on being able to make soldiers available for very important events in families' lives. My command sergeant majors taught me we had to do all we could to make sure that soldiers were available for births, high school graduations, commissionings of brothers and sisters, those one-time events that don't come around on the calendar another, a year later. And so you've got to be the advocate for your soldiers when those things occur. In fact, you've got to be the advocate for your soldiers all the time. We have a great Uniform Code of Military Justice. It needs to be updated in some areas, but it's pretty doggone good. Much better than most of the civilian counterpart systems that I've run into since I retired. Our disciplinary systems work, but never forget that as the commander or the leader making a recommendation to a commander, you got to think about what's the potential for successful service after this incident has occurred. I just got to tell you, good people, good soldiers sometimes make mistakes. Never tolerate indiscipline. I'm not telling you to be soft. I'm telling you think about the good of the Army and the potential of the soldier that's standing in front of your desk facing a disciplinary action. It's important, and it'll mean a lot to you and the Army in the future. Now, the folks you're sitting upon will recognize this, and I'd ask you to look at those senior candidates sitting at the table with you. In the very near future, the President of the United States is going to repose special trust and confidence in your patriotism, your valor, your fidelity, and your abilities. And you're going to swear another oath. You're going to swear an oath to defend the Constitution of our great country, the United States of America, against all enemies. And you're going to serve that duty as a commissioned officer in the United States Army. Never, never forget that there's There's no expiration date on your commission or your oath. They are lifelong pledges of honor. Now, all of us and all of those leaders in the Legion from across OCS for 75 years, we expect you to take charge of our Army. You've got to. We demand that you lead our soldiers with the highest standard of leadership. We pray, we earnestly pray that you keep our soldiers and our nation safe. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to conclude tonight asking you, all of you, to join me in a round of applause recognizing these senior candidates that are going to be lieutenants in about 7 days. God bless you all.
Well, we would be remiss if we didn't recognize General Brown for his wonderful comments tonight. So the first thing that I'd like to do on behalf of the officers, non-commissioned officers, and candidates of 311 Officer Candidate School is to present you with a plaque. Sir, thank you very much for speaking to us tonight.
United States Army Officer Candidate School Alumni Association would like to present this print of the archways that now stand at the entrance and the exit of the new battalion area. Probably bring us back old memories, and we appreciate your great speech this evening. Thank you very much. This evening, once again, we're celebrating that honored ceremony, that salute, the ceremonial salute between the oldest candidates, graduates, and the youngest candidates. It is an sexually interesting one this evening, since our history, of course, goes back 75 years. We are blessed to have 3 candidates, 3 graduates, that were in the early stages of OCS. But before I get into that, you know we're celebrating the 75th anniversary of OCS this year. And before they come up here, I'd like to read a letter from a senator. And this takes us back to that early days. And I think it fits into the fact that we have these 1940s graduates with us. United States Senate, Washington, D.C. Greetings. It is with great pleasure that I send my heartfelt congratulations to everyone gathered in celebration of the United States Army Candidate School 75th anniversary and reunion. I appreciate the United States Army Officer Candidate School for preparing men and women to command soldiers and become leaders in their communities. As the chairman of the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs, I am proud to do all I can for our military and veterans in Washington, D.C. Thank you to our military, our event organizers, and to everyone here showing support for our military. May we never forget to be grateful for the freedom made possible by your sacrifices. On this day and every day, may God bless our service members, our veterans, and their families. With my warmest personal regards, and it's signed by Johnny Isaacson, the senator from the state of Georgia. And just one further item. On Thursday noon in the House of Representatives, there will be a proclamation declared by Representative Whitman from Virginia. And his note is this: Mr. Speaker, I rise today to highlight a momentous event, the 75th anniversary celebration of the United States Army Officer Candidate School. The Army Officer Candidate program was established in 1941 when the Secretary of War, the War Department, and the Army Chief of Staff agreed that a training program was needed to quickly commission new officers. Since its inception, the demand for well-trained junior officers has expanded and contracted as American soldiers have been involved in conflicts spanning World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, and the War on Terror. The Army Officer Candidate School continues to demonstrate the unparalleled flexibility, professionalism, and an exceptional ability to provide the United States Army with competent, well-trained, and fearless officers in the most responsive time possible. The graduates are recognized as leaders in the nation's first and best line of defense in the Army and are essential to the fighting and winning our nation's war. And this is from Congressman Robert J. Whitman, Virginia. Now, having said that, we're going back to this tradition that is long-standing of the oldest graduates receiving a salute and a handshake from the youngest graduate, thereby passing on the heritage and history and their experience during those many years before so that they can carry on the greatest tradition that we have. At this time, I'd like to request the three oldest graduates come forward. They are Major General Maury Kendall, 1943, Colonel Robert H. Robinson, 1945, and Colonel Robinson has an additional distinction in that he commanded the 5th Student Battalion in 1966 and 1967, succeeding Colonel Robert B. Nett. And the final one is Mr. Dennis Ryan, 1946. At this time, I ask that the three youngest candidates post themselves and present a salute to our World War II people. The passing of the torch is now complete. Please return to your seats.